That's true. Time is so homophobic. We're gonna read this thing called a consensus handbook, okay? Cooperative decision making for activists, co-ops, and communities. Published, written, whatever, by the Seeds for Change UK, whatever they do. One of their chapters or something, I don't know. So it just says by Seeds for Change. That's the name of the organization, okay? And I threw the link at the top of the chat, so you can get it there. Woohoo! Okay, right. This book is 228 PDF pages long, so it might take us a while, but that's okay. It can't be as bad as the last book. Can't be as bad as the last. Alright. Yeah, this is what the cover looks like, except I think it's normally not in dark mode. I think but yeah. Okay, so let's see here. There's illustrations on all of the pages or something. This has got many illustrations, apparently. They have a foreword. It's not very long, thankfully. This book is all about consensus decision-making. In chapters 1 to 6, we look at the fundamentals of consensus decision-making, what it is, how to do it, what qualities we need in ourselves and in our groups to make it work, along with tools and techniques to help when facilitating a consensus process. The next 2 chapters are all about confronting the challenges we face using consensus. Here you'll find troubleshooting tips, as well as an exploration of how to address deeper issues. There's something in oh, never mind. Such as interpersonal conflict and power dynamics. The final chapter, Consensus in Wider Society, is different from the rest of the book. In every other chapter, we've aimed to share what we've observed and learnt as facilitators over the years, but in this chapter, which is about how a society based on consensus might work, we've allowed ourselves to dream a little, as well as applying our own experiences and observations. We've included a lot of material based on intuition and guesswork. We find that the more we think about this subject, the more questions we have, and we hope that this chapter will create more questions in our readers and hopefully some answers too. In this book, you'll find some words have been underlined. These refer to facilitation tools and techniques, and an explanation of them can be found in Chapter 6, Facilitation Techniques and Activities. Okay. I don't care about the organization. They have a couple worker co-ops. Okay, cool. All right. Anyway, the real shit. Chapter 1. Making decisions by consensus. Consensus decision-making is a creative and dynamic way of reaching agreement between all members of a group. Instead of simply voting for an item and having the majority of the group get their way, a consensus group is committed to finding solutions that everyone actively supports or at least can live with. Pardon me. All decisions are made with the consent of everyone involved, and this ensures that all opinions, ideas, and concerns are taken into account. Through listening closely to each other, the group aims to come up with proposals that work for everyone. Consensus is neither compromise nor unanimity. It aims to go further by weaving together everyone's best ideas and key concerns, a process that often results in surprising and creative solutions, inspiring both the individual and the group as a whole. At the heart of consensus is a respectful dialogue between equals. It's about how to work with each other rather than for or against each other. It rejects side-taking, point-scoring, and strategic maneuvering. Consensus is looking for win-win solutions that are acceptable to all, with the direct benefit that everyone agrees with the final decision, resulting in a greater commitment to actually turning it into reality. Consensus can work in all types of settings: small voluntary groups, local communities, businesses, theoretically even whole nations and territories. The process may differ depending on the size of the group and other factors, but the basic principle of cooperation between equals remains the same. What's wrong with the democracy we've got? Democracy? What democracy? How we make decisions is the key to how our society is organized. It influences every aspect of our lives, including our places of work, local communities, health services, and even whether we live in war or in peace. Many of us have been brought up to believe that the Western-style system of voting is the highest form of democracy. Total joke. Not even close. Yet in the very nations which shout loudest about the virtues of democracy, many people don't even bother to vote anymore. They feel it doesn't actually make any difference to their lives, because it usually doesn't, as most decisions are made by elite of powerful politicians and business people. Representative democracies. Power and decision-making is taken away from ordinary people when they vote for leaders, handing over their power to make decisions to a small elite with very different interests from their own. Being allowed to vote 20 times in a lifetime for an MP or other political representatives is a poor substitute for having the power ourselves to make the decisions that affect every aspect of our lives. Most social systems, including representative democracies, rely on a system of hierarchy, where most of the power lies with a small group of decision-makers on top, while the much larger group of people at the bottom have little or no say. Those at the top would have you believe that such a system of hierarchy is the natural order of things. They argue that people are selfish by nature and need a set of morals, rules, and laws to control behavior. These rules need to be enforced by a system of control, where some people have more power than others. How convenient for everyone to believe such a thing. How convenient for the people in charge. Leaders are necessary to tell people how to live their lives, direct them at work, and structure society. They're backed up by police and military who use real or threatened violence to keep everyone within the law. In addition, there are many areas of society where democratic principles have little influence. Most institutions and workplaces are entirely hierarchical. Students and employees don't usually get a chance to vote their superiors into office or have any decision-making power in the places where they spend the greatest part of their lives. Or consider the supermarket chain muscling its way into a town against the will of local people. Most areas of society are ruled by power, status, and money, not through democracy. The alternatives are already here. The alternatives to the current system are already here. We know, you just said that. Growing in the gaps between the paving stones of state authority and corporate control. We only need to learn to recognize them for the seedlings of the different kind of society that they are. Homeless people occupying empty houses and turning them into collective homes, workers buying out the businesses they work for and running them on equitable terms, gardening groups growing vegetables, collectively, can't read. Once we start looking, there are hundreds of examples of cooperative organizing that we encounter in our daily lives. Many of these people struggling for social change have recognized that changing the way we make decisions is key to creating a different society. It is by making decisions for ourselves that we exert control over our lives and taste freedom. And what does freedom taste like, by the way? It might taste something like that. I don't know. And since most of us wish to live in and are dependent on some form of society, we must find ways to balance the needs and desires of every individual with those of the closer community and the wider world. We need a way of making decisions in which power is shared by all rather than concentrated in the hands of a few, so we can all play an equal role in forging a common future. What's wrong with voting? Oh boy. Many people accept the idea that voting is the normal way of achieving any kind of shared power over our future. After all, it is often presented to us as the only possibility out there. Compared to electing representatives, having a direct vote on important issues is clearly a significant step towards real democratic control. However, when you vote, any idea which most people like will be accepted, and the concerns of the people who opposed it can be ignored. This creates a situation in which there are winners and losers. This may foster bad feeling and distrust, as the losers feel disempowered by the process. The will of the majority may be seen as the will of the whole group, with the minority expected to accept and carry out the decision, even if it is against their deeply held convictions and most basic needs. It is possible for a voting group to look for solutions that would suit everybody, but it is more common for ideas with a majority backend to be pushed through. People might sometimes choose to go along with what the majority wants, but in a voting system, this is the only option. For example, if a group is trying to decide when to hold a regular meeting, a vote for the most popular time could exclude some people from the group altogether. If a group was applying for a grant and a few people had a fundamental ethical objection to a particular funder, the group could press ahead regardless, even if it meant some people would feel forced to leave. It's true that a majority voting can enable even controversial decisions to be taken in a minimum amount of time, but that doesn't mean the decision will be a wise one or even morally acceptable. After all, over time, the majority of Europeans and North Americans supported the right to hold slaves. Or at one time, I can't read. Why use consensus? Looking for solutions acceptable to everyone who is affected is a much more cooperative model of decision-making. The values of respect and equality that many of us try to apply with partners, family, and friends are essential parts of consensus. If we were going out for a meal, out with a bunch of mates, we would try to find a place where everyone would wanted to eat. The fact that a majority wanted pizza wouldn't be good enough if the celiac and the vegan had to sit miserably picking at a green salad while everyone else gorged themselves on a feast. Around here you can get okay, hold on. Can we use a different example for this? Like, wait a minute. You know you don't have to put meat on a pizza. You can get pizzas without meat on them, right? You can get pizzas with fake-ass vegan cheese on them and shit. You can get pizzas with gluten-free crusts and shit. They do these now. Maybe they don't have that in the UK. Maybe pizza in the UK is a different thing there. I'm not sure what it is, but... Pizza is one of the most varied things you could have chosen here. Choose something more restrictive, oh my god. Okay, anyway. In this situation, we might not identify that we were using consensus decision-making, but the fundamental principles are the same. Respect for each individual means we are looking for an outcome everyone can live with. This means everyone working together to find a solution that is good for the whole group. When we transfer these principles to more important decisions and larger groups, we need to put more thought into how we have those conversations. However, the goal, working cooperatively to make sure everyone's needs are met, remains the same. By definition, in consensus, anyone can block a proposal by not giving their consent. This is not an option to be used lightly, simply because you don't like an idea. It means stopping other people going ahead with something they want to do, and that should only be done in extreme circumstances. However, it provides a safety net. The group knows from the outset that minorities cannot just be ignored, but solutions will have to be found and deal with their concerns. The right to block decisions is about much more than individual empowerment. It requires people to work together to meet both the individual's and the group's needs. This involves sharing power and responsibility, laying the foundations for a fairer world. Who uses consensus? ? Consensus is not a new idea. Variations of consensus have been tested and proven around the world and through time. On the American continent, non-hierarchical societies have existed for hundreds of years. Before 1600, 5 nations, the Cayuga, Mohawk, Oneida, Onondaga, and Seneca, formed the Haudenosaunee Confederation, which works on a consensual basis and is still in existence today. There are also many examples of successful and stable utopian communes using consensus decision-making, such as the Christian, how to pronounce this? Herrenhuter, I have no idea where it even is. Herrenhuter, I don't know. Settlement 1741 to 1760, and the production commune, Loi Monde Vivi, 1941 to 1972. Christiania, oh god, an autonomous district in Copenhagen, has been self-governed by its inhabitants since 1971. Can they change the name? Within the cooperative movement, many housing co-ops and social enterprises use consensus successfully. Prominent examples include Summa, a major UK whole-food wholesaler, and Radical Roots, a networking of housing co-ops, social centres, and workers' co-ops in Britain. The business meetings of the Religious Society of Friends, the Quakers, used consensus and to integrate the insights of each individual, arriving at the best possible approximation of the truth. Political and social activists such as anarchists and others working for peace, the environment, and social justice commonly regard consensus to be essential to their work. They believe that the methods for achieving change need to match their goals and visions of a free, nonviolent, egalitarian society. In protests around the world, many mass actions and protest camps involving several thousand people have been organized and carried out using consensus, including the 1999 Battle of Seattle World Trade Organization protest, the 2005 G8 Summit protests in Scotland, and the camps for climate action in the UK, Germany, Australia, Netherlands, and other countries. In 2011 to 2012, consensus was used in almost every one of the hundreds of camps of the Occupy movement. How does consensus work? Conditions for consensus. Different groups use slightly different processes to achieve consensus decisions. However, in every group, there are a few conditions that underpin consensus building. The conditions also provide a useful set of pointers to possible underlying problems if your group is finding consensus difficult. See Chapter 8, Bridging the Gap Between Theory and Practice, for more on how you might address these underlying problems. Common goal. Everyone present needs to share a common goal and be willing to work together towards it. This could be the desire to take action at a specific event or a shared vision of a better world. In a longer-term community, it might be simply the desire to provide everybody with a home that is safe, comfortable, and where all are equal. Don't just assume everyone is pulling in the same direction. Spend some time together defining the goals of your group and the way you can get there. When differences arise in later meetings, revisiting the common goal can help to focus and unite the group. Commitment to reaching consensus. Consensus can require a lot of commitment and patience to make it work. Everyone needs to be willing to really give it a go. For some reason, the extremely high straight divorce rate just popped into my head. It's not related at all, I swear. This means not only being deeply honest about what it is you want or don't want, but also being able to properly listen to what others have to say. Everyone must be prepared to shift their positions, to be open to alternative solutions, and able to reassess what they consider to be their needs. It would be easy to call for a vote at the first sign of difficulty, but in the consensus model, differences help to build a stronger and more creative final decision. Difficulties can arise if individuals secretly want to return to majority voting, just waiting for the chance to say, "I told you it wouldn't work." Trust and openness. We all need to be able to trust that everyone shares our commitment to creating true consensus decisions. This includes being able to trust people not to abuse the process to manipulate the outcome of the discussion. If we feel scared that other people are putting their own wishes and needs before everyone else's, then we are more likely to become defensive and behave in the same way ourselves because it seems like the only way to look after our own interests. I like this shallot peeling diagram. Is a shallot or an onion? I mean, shallots are usually longer like that, right? It's a shallot. Onions are for poor people. This is a shallot. We don't. I use onions usually. Anyway, we have layers, okay? We have to peel back the layers. There's what you say you want, then there's what you really want, and then there's what you actually need. That's the one you need to get to. Making decisions by consensus is based on openness. This means learning to openly express both our desires, what we'd like to see happening, and our needs, what we have to see happen in order to be able to support a decision. Differentiating between what we want and what we really need sounds easy, but it can take time for us to learn how. If we're trying to win an argument, then an effective tactic is to claim we need more than we really do, so we can concede points without giving up anything important. However, consensus is not about using tactics to try and win. It is about being honest from the outset so that the group has the information it requires to take everyone's positions into account. Sufficient time for making decisions and for learning to work by consensus. Taking time to make a good decision now can save wasting time revisiting a bad one later. See Chapter 7, Troubleshooting in Your Meetings for tips on saving time. Clear process. It's essential for everyone to have a shared understanding of the process that the meeting is using. There are lots of variations of the consensus process, so even if people are experienced in using consensus, they may use it differently to you. There may also be group agreements or hand signals. See Chapter 6, Facilitation Techniques and Activities in Use that need to be explained. Active participation. If we want a decision we can all agree on, then we all need to play an active role in the decision-making. This means listening to what everyone has to say, voicing thoughts and feelings about the matter, and proactively looking for solutions that include everyone. Good facilitation helps the group work harmoniously, creatively, and democratically. It also ensures that the tasks of the meeting get done, that decisions are made and implemented. It is not always essential to give one or more person the role of facilitator. In a small informal group, everyone can be responsible for making the meeting work. If you do appoint facilitators, they need active support from everyone present. The consensus process. The key for a group working towards consensus is for all members of the group to express their needs and viewpoints clearly, recognize their common ground, and find solutions in any areas of disagreement. The diagram below shows how a discussion evolves during the consensus process. In the first stage, the discussion opens out as people bring their perspectives and ideas to the group. This provides the material needed for a broad-ranging exploration of all the options, and which is apparently the middle section of the diagram. What's the diagram? I see. Okay. It helps people understand each other's concerns. This can be a turbulent and sometimes difficult stage. People might be grappling with lots of competing or contradictory ideas, but it's the most creative part, so don't lose heart. Finally, the group finds common ground and weeds out some of the options, combining all useful bits into a proposal. The third stage in the diagram below shows this drawing together of the discussion, culminating in a synthesized decision, one which brings together different ideas to meet different people's needs and concerns. Here's the process. We have a diagram. Okay. It's more of a flowchart, I guess. But there's only one. It's a one-way flowchart. Actually, no, there's a repeat section. Hold on. It's a flowchart. Step 1. Introduce and clarify the issues to be decided. Share relevant info. What are the key questions? Step 2. Explore the issue and look for ideas. Gather initial thoughts and reactions. What are the issues and people's concerns? Collect ideas for solving the problem and write them down. Have a broad-ranging discussion and debate the ideas. What are the pros and cons? Start thinking about solutions to people's concerns. Eliminate some ideas, shortlist others. Then, step 3, look for emerging proposals. Look for a proposal that weaves together the best elements of the ideas discussed. Look for solutions that address people's key concerns. Step 4, discuss, clarify, and amend your proposal. Ensure that any remaining concerns are heard and that everyone has a chance to contribute. Look for amendments that make the proposal even more acceptable to the group. Step 5. Test for agreement. Do you have agreement? Check for the following. Blocks. There's a fundamental problem with the core of the proposal that has not been resolved. We need to look for a new proposal. Stand-asides. I can't support this proposal but I don't want to stop the group, so I'll let the decision happen without me. Reservations. I have some reservations, but I'm willing to let the proposal pass. Agreement, I support the proposal and I'm willing to implement it. And consensus is when you have no blocks, not too many stand-asides or reservations, and you have active agreement, then you have a decision. And if you don't have consensus, then you go back to step 3. Okay. But when you get your decision, you go to step 6, implement it. Who could have guessed? Who, when, how? Action point, the task, the tasks and the deadlines. There are lots of consensus models out there. Some groups have developed very detailed procedures, other groups follow a more organic process. The following basic process outlines the stages that are common to most models of consensus. It looks like quite a formal way of holding a discussion, but most experienced groups will go through these steps without noticing they're doing it. If you have a complex or difficult decisions to make, or if you are new to consensus, this process might help guide you through. Alternatively, if you are working more informally but experience problems reaching a good decision, it's worth checking this process to make sure you have covered all the stages. This model will work well in groups of about 2 to 20 people. With larger groups, then that extra steps may need to be built in to ensure that everyone is able to participate fully. Have a look at Chapter 3, Facilitating Consensus in Large Groups, to see how this basic model can be adapted to work for groups of up to thousands of people. The process in more detail. Step 1. Introduce and clarify the issue. This first stage is crucial to get you off to a good start. A good introduction will focus the meeting, ensure that everyone is talking about the same issue, and provide everyone with all relevant information needed to make a decision. Spending a bit more time now will get everyone up to speed and save lots of time, or to get everyone up to speed, will save lots of time later and make it possible for everyone to contribute. Subsection A. Explain the issue and why it needs to be discussed. This could be done by the facilitator, the person who is raising the issue, or by someone who knows a lot about the issue and its background. Be careful to introduce the issue in a way that leaves options open. For example, if you start the discussion with, "Shall we get the builders in to fix the roof?" It implies far fewer possibilities than are opened up by, "The roof has been leaking. What shall we do?" Which might include sorting it out yourselves, or taking the opportunity to install solar panels at the same time, for example. B. Share all relevant information. If possible, prepare a summary of the relevant information and circulate it in advance so that people have a chance to read up and think about the issue. C. Agree the aims of the discussion. What decisions need to be made and by when? Who needs to be involved in making the decision? What are the key questions? Can you break complex issues into smaller chunks to tackle one by one? Do all the decisions need to be made today? Could you decide the basics and leave the fine details to be worked out by a couple of people? This is a lot to think about, and not all of these questions will be relevant every time, but they can help to narrow down and structure your discussion. For example, imagine you start with a vague heading on the agenda, like "End of Lease on Building." Everyone will have a different idea what the discussion is about, and you may end up in a protracted wrangle about the pros and cons of other buildings before you have enough information to make a decision about them, or before you've ever or even decided whether you want or need to move from where you are. By contrast, you could have a much more focused discussion opening with, "We have 6 months till the lease is up for renewal. Someone suggested we took the opportunity to find a different building. This is an important question that we all need to think about. The decision we need to make now is whether we are all totally happy staying here or whether we want to look into other options. If we do decide to consider more options, I suggest that we pass it on to a subgroup to investigate what they might be and discuss it further when they report back." D. Allow plenty of time for questions and clarifications. Don't assume that everything is crystal clear just because it's obvious to you. Equally, if you are confused yourself, now is the time to ask for more information or explanations. Step 2. Explore the issue and look for ideas. Now it's time for everyone to really try to understand the issue, to express what they want or need to happen, and come up with lots of ideas for solving the problems. A. Gather initial thoughts and reactions. Start by giving people space to think about the issue and to express any wishes and concerns that it brings up. Make a note of these, as they will need to be addressed for a solution to be found. Resist the temptation to jump straight in with a proposal. To achieve consensus, we first of all need to have a good understanding of everyone's concerns and limitations. Be honest about your own feelings and listen carefully to what everyone else is saying. At times, it can be difficult to say what it is you want and don't want. If you're struggling to express things, say so rather than staying quiet. Equally, if you don't quite understand someone else's position, ask for clarification. B. Collect ideas for solving the problem. Use techniques such as go-rounds, idea storms, or breaking into small groups. We're going to learn what those mean apparently later. I know what small groups means. Not sure about the other ones. To generate lots of ideas for solving the problem. Be clear that at this stage they are only ideas, not proposals. In consensus, the word proposal implies that you have thought carefully and are suggesting a way forward you think would be acceptable to everybody. It is too early to use this word before you know what people's thoughts and feelings are. When bringing up ideas, take into account the concepts you've heard and any objectives you've agreed. For example, maybe you are planning an action to protest against an army recruitment stall at your university careers fair. If you have agreed that you want to shut the stall down entirely, then holding banners at a different part of the university campus is unlikely to achieve your aim. If someone didn't want to do a noise demo because it might disrupt other stalls at the careers fair, they probably won't be happy with your suggestion to set the building or set the fire alarms off in the entire building. I saw the fire part, setting fire apart. I thought at first the suggestion was going to be to set fire to the entire building. That would have been a little bit much. If you disagree with someone about what the aim should be, or you don't share their concerns, then open a discussion about it. Don't just ignore what they've said and hope they'll forget. But if you accept what has been said, then show you have been listening by considering it when coming up with new ideas. C. Have a broad-ranging discussion about the ideas. Consensus is a creative thinking process that thrives on mixing up lots of different ideas. Make time for a broad-ranging discussion where you can explore ideas and look at the pros and cons and any concerns they bring up. This will often spark new and surprising ideas. Express any reservations about ideas early on so that they can be dealt with. Draw on all the experience, knowledge, and wisdom of your group. Make sure everyone is heard. Step 3. Look for an emerging proposal. After discussing the issue freely, move on to finding agreement on what needs to be done. This stage is also called synthesis, which means coming up with a proposal by combining elements with several different ideas. Start with a summary of where you think the group is at. Outline the emerging common ground as well as the unresolved differences. It seems like we've almost reached agreement on that part, but we need to explore this a bit further to address everyone's concerns. It's important to not only pick up on clear differences, but also on more subtle agreement or disagreement. Now start building a proposal from whatever agreement there is. Look for ideas on how the differences can be resolved. Focus on solutions that address the fundamental needs and key concerns that people within the group have. Often people are willing to give way on some things, but not on others, which affect them more closely. The solution will often be found by combining elements from different ideas. This might also mean digging a little deeper to find out why people want the things that they do. For example, maybe you are a housing co-op wanting to use your own home as a venue for an event, and one person is very resistant to the idea. Closer discussion might reveal you don't need to reject the idea outright. In fact, their concern is about wanting to have privacy upstairs and in the kitchen. Let me explain what you need to do. Okay. Okay, comma. And if you only open up one room to the public and carry through an urn to provide tea, they will be happy. Okay, so kitchens. When you have a bunch of people over at your house or whatever, or just anyone really, don't let people in the kitchen, except for the people who are cooking. Nobody else. Trust me. Unless you want everyone cooking to get really pissed off. Lots of people, for some fucking reason, think that they can just go into the fucking kitchen, get in the way, try to mess with the food, try to change something because they think something is wrong or with it or whatever. Those people need to be kept out of the kitchen at all costs. They will ruin everything. You need bouncers for your fucking kitchen if you have people over, okay? Especially if it's people that you know like to fuck with people's food, which is unfortunately very common. Okay. It can really help to use a lot of people want to go into the kitchen and like ask the people cooking what they're cooking. Don't let them do this. Instead, the people who are cooking should write a list of the things that they're cooking, and the bouncer, the kitchen bouncer, can give that list of things that are being made to the people who want it. Leave the cooks alone. God. Anyway. It can really help to use a flip chart or whiteboard to write up the areas of agreement and issues to be resolved. This means everyone can see what's happening and it focuses on the discussion. Is that really how you spell focuses? Is this really the... Is this not the... Oh no, hold on. Is that really how you spell it? Isn't it only one S, or is this... Hold on. Oh, it's a UK spelling of the third person verb focus. Okay. However, the Cambridge Dictionary lists focuses with only one S as the correct version of one. Okay, anyway, this just looks... I could, like, they already had some UK spellings in here because they're a UK group, but oh my god, that one is disgusting. The UK has some weird spellings. That one is gross. What the fuck, y'all? What is wrong with you? Ew. It looks so weird. It looks so wrong. Ugh. Okay, anyway. Ugh. What the fuck is that? Hello. Oh. Okay. Even when what to say here? People often argue over small details and overlook the fact that they agree on the big picture. Making this obvious to the group can help to provide ways forward. Even when there is strong disagreement within the group, synthesis can help move the discussion on. Always try and find some common ground, no matter how small. So, we're all agreed that climate change demands urgent action, even if we disagree on whether the solution lies in developing new technologies or reducing consumption. I like how those are the only two choices given. This can reinforce that we're all on the same side and remind the group of their overall shared aims, a necessary condition for consensus. I can tell you right now it's not the first answer. We already have technology for mass transit. I don't... powered by electricity. I'm just saying... The technology is there. Everyone thinks we need some new shit. Do we? Not really. Not that new. Oh, we gotta have, like, fancy pants CO2 removal that we literally doesn't fucking work. That'll save us. No, actually... Okay. Synthesizing a solution doesn't necessarily mean uniformity or unanimity. Sometimes a solution is staring us in the face, but our desire to get full agreement becomes an obstacle. We'd agree we'd like to go ahead with a protest. However, some feel strongly that the target of our protest should be government, and others feel it ought to be corporations. But do we have to choose between them? Question mark. Could we not agree that both can happen? What's the difference? I was gonna say. How are they? Step 4. Discuss, clarify, and amend the proposals. Or proposal. Check whether people have concerns about the proposal and look for amendments that make the proposal more acceptable to everyone. Do things like go-rounds and straw polls to gauge support for the proposal and elicit amendments. If it becomes obvious at this stage that some people have strong reservations, see whether you can come up with a different and better option. Remember, consensus is about finding solutions that work for everyone. Be careful not to get carried away because most people like the proposal. Watch out for people who are quiet or looking unhappy and check with them. Give people time to get their head around the proposal and what it means for them. If it's a complex or emotional issue, it's good to build in some time for reflection or a break before moving on to testing for agreement. Step 5. Test for agreement. A. Clearly state the proposal. It's best if people can see it written up, for example, on a large piece of paper. B. Check for clarifications. Does everyone fully understand what is being proposed? Does everyone understand the same thing? C. Ask whether anyone has objections or reservations. Ideally, the consensus decision-making process should identify and address concerns and reservations at an early stage. However, proposals do not always get wholehearted support from everyone, and less confident group members may find it hard to express their disagreement. It is important, therefore, to explicitly check if anyone is unhappy with a proposal at this stage. Within consensus, there are several ways of expressing disagreement. Like blocks, the block stops the proposal, while declaring reservations and standing aside provide a way to express concerns but allow the group to proceed with the decision. Exactly which of these are appropriate to use will depend on the situation and what the group has decided about how they want to use them. Block. There's a fundamental problem with the core of the proposal that cannot be resolved. If the group accepts the proposal, either you or others will struggle to stay part of the group. We need to look for a new proposal. A block always stops a proposal from being agreed. It expresses a fundamental objection, not "I don't really like it" or "I liked the other idea better." The group can look for a completely different proposal or look for amendments to overcome the objection. It is good to check for blocks first, because they can be harder to voice once a proposal has been given an enthusiastic go-ahead by other people. The block is a powerful tool and should be used with caution. Ideally, strong concerns will be heard early enough in the discussion to feed into the synthesized proposal, and a block will be unnecessary. Some groups place limits on the situations in which a block is allowed to be used, only when a proposal goes against the core aims of the group, for example. For other groups, it is enough to say that it should be only used when feelings are so strong that the proposal going ahead would split the group. More on this can be found below, and also in Chapter 7, Troubleshooting in Your Meeting. However your group uses a block, it is important at this stage to remind everyone what the block means so that everyone has the same understanding of how it should be used. Stand aside. I can't support this proposal because ... but I don't want to stop the group, so I'll let the decision happen without me, and I won't be part of implementing it. You might stand aside because you disagree with the proposal. I'm unhappy enough with this decision not to put any effort into making it a reality, but if the rest of you want to go ahead, I won't stop you. In this case, the person standing aside is not responsible for the consequences. This should be recorded in the minutes. Sometimes standing aside can be more pragmatic. You might like the decision, but be unable to support it because of time restraints or personal energy levels. I'm okay with the decision, but I'm not going to be around next week to make it happen. A stand aside on these grounds may not be relevant if a decision only takes a small number of people to implement it. For example, it wouldn't be necessary to stand aside from putting a banner up just because it was someone else who was going to attach it to the fence. However, if it is a decision about putting it on an event, for example, which would take a lot of work, it is important to know if some people aren't around to help for them to formally step out of the decision-making because it won't affect them. The group may be happy to accept the stand aside and go ahead, or the group might decide to work on a new proposal, especially where there are several stand asides. Again, this will depend on the situation. If group unity is very important, then even one stand aside will be unacceptable. This might be because you are making a decision such as about policy, which you need to trust everyone will implement, or simply that a major aim of what you're doing is to work together as a group. Supposing you planned a team-building social, and the proposal was to go rock climbing. If one person stood aside because they were scared of heights, and everyone else went ahead, you'd risk losing the whole point of the exercise. Team-building social. Hold on, you're not going to try and get random people to go do lead climbing, are you? You're going to take random people and start them on traditional climbing? Good luck. Go to a bouldering gym. Oh my god. Plus they're not as tall, so the people who are scared of heights should be okay. Unless they're afraid of like 5 feet off the ground, then they might not be okay. Are you afraid of 5 feet off the ground? People who are scared of heights. How tall does it have to be for you to be scared? Like 5 feet off the ground, you're probably gonna like you just jump down. It's fine. You can jump from 10 feet. Okay, not everyone can jump from 10 feet. If you're going to a bouldering gym, you can probably jump from 10 feet. You're probably okay. I think it would be like, go watch paraclimbing. Okay. Okay, but anyway. I like this proposal, but maybe go bouldering instead. Okay. Declare reservations. I still have problems with the proposal, but I'll go along with it. You are willing to let the proposal pass but want to register concerns. You may even put energy into implementing the idea once your dissent has been acknowledged. If there are significant reservations, the group may feel it necessary to amend or change the proposal. Team building exercise. Let's go climb a whole ass mountain. This isn't a very accessible team building exercise. Bit of a problem here. Okay. You are willing to let the proposal pass, but want to register concerns. You may even put energy into implementing the idea once your dissent has been acknowledged. If there are significant reservations, the group may feel it necessary to amend or change the proposal. Make sure that everyone understands the different options for expressing disagreement. Often people are confused and block when they would actually be happy to stand aside. Sometimes people are scared of blocking, even though they are deeply unhappy, and use a milder form of disagreement instead. Ask people what their problems with the proposal are and whether they have suggestions for how they could be addressed. Check for active agreement. If there are no blocks, and the group feels that reservations and stand-asides are within acceptable limits, check for active agreement from everyone. People often show they agree by waving their hands, but watch out for silence or inaction and check for the reasons. Thank you for the illustration. Step 6. Implement the decision. Once you've agreed what you want to do, you need to work out who will do it and by when. Share out the tasks among the group and record these action points in the minutes for the meeting. Alright, we have an example of a consensus process. Step 1. The bit of wasteland that we've used as a park for the last 10 years is going to be sold by the council, but they want to sell it to a supermarket, so a supermarket can be built there. But nobody wants another supermarket. We already have 3 in this town.
So does anyone know when this is all likely to happen?
More information is shared. So I guess the decision we need to make right now is whether we want to do anything about it, and if so, what? Do you think they have people that talk like that very much in the UK? I'll be the first one. Step 2. Let's go around and see what everyone thinks. I guess it's time to find somewhere else for the kids to play. I don't think we should give up that easily. Let's look for ways to raise money to buy the park. Yeah, let's form an action group, do some fundraising, and what about squatting it? Not sure about that. Not wanting a supermarket is one thing, but squatting the park's another. That's not for me. I'd be happy to look at how to raise the money, though. Okay, but I don't want to rule out taking action if we can't raise the money. If we give in too easily, the developers will snap up every bit of green space for miles. More ideas are talked about, blah, 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 blah. Step 3. So, what are we going to do? Some of you feel that we should build tree houses in the park to stop the developers, but we think we should try and raise money to buy the land. But nobody said that they're actually against squatting the park, just not everyone wants to do that, and squatting might slow the council down so we have time to raise the money. Let's do both. Yes, and although I don't want to live up a tree, I don't want to be arrested. I'd be happy to bring food and stuff and work in the group that's doing fundraising. Step 4. So let's just check how everyone feels about that proposal. Let's do a go-around. I like the idea of both squatting and trying to raise the cash to save the park, not shave the park. I'm not mowing the... shaving the park. I have one little razor to shave to mow all the grass. But people have been talking about separate groups doing these. I feel that we really need to stay as one group. I think if we split, they might try to play one group off against the other. I'm not sure about this. I don't want to put my kids in danger. Everyone has their say. Okay, so there's a suggestion that we amend the proposal to make it clear that we stay as one group, even though we're both squatting and raising funds at the same time. And Hal has pointed out that for a while the land will still be pretty much as it was before, so we can still bring our kids to the park just like now. Step 5. Right, we have a proposal that we squat the park to make sure that it doesn't get trashed, and at the same time we start doing grant applications to raise the money to buy the land to save the park for everyone. We're going to be very clear that we are one group doing both of these things, and we want to make sure it's safe for children to continue playing there. Does anyone disagree with this proposal? Remember, the block stops the rest of the group from going ahead, so use it if you really couldn't stay in the group if we followed this plan. And you could stand aside if you don't want to take part in all or part of the plans. If you think we should consider any reservations you have, then please let us know, even if you're still going to go along with it. Yes, I'm not sure we can raise that much cash, but I do think squatting it has good chances of getting results. I don't want to take part in the fundraising. I'm not going to stand in the way. So yeah, I'll stand aside from the fundraising bit. Yeah, I'm not sure about the fundraising either. I agree, it hasn't got much a chance, but I'll go along with it, because I reckon a lot of people out there have experience of this kind of thing, so let's try it out. Does anyone else disagree? No? Okay, I think we might have consensus. Let's just check. Wave your hands if you agree with the proposal. Rob, just checking, because you didn't wave your hands. Are you happy with the proposal? Ah, I see, yes. I hope your wrist gets better soon. Great. Mood. My wrist hates me. Still can't do push-ups. Great, we have consensus, with one stand aside and one reservation. Hold on, how long has it been? Well, I gotta check my workout sheet. It's been since... What month is that? June 4th. July 4th. July 4th, sorry. No, yes, July 4th. That is the day I had to stop doing push-ups because my right wrist got really hurt. Still can't do them. It's been almost 2 months. I love having fucked up joints. Okay. Okay. Let's see here. Great, we have consensus with one stand aside and one reservation. Okay. Step 6. Okay, so we're going to squat the land to prevent any trashing going on, and we need to start fundraising. We'll need to decide things like when we'll start squatting, what we'll need, whether we want to do a news release and tell the council. And for the fundraising, we'll need to identify funds that may be able to help, and come up with ideas for raising some money through benefit gigs and stuff. How about we start to work out the details for the squatting part right now, and then we meet again tomorrow to work out what to do about the fundraising. Great. And we'll need to let people who couldn't make it tonight know what we've decided and make sure they can get involved. Key skills and values for consensus. When do I use the block? At the decision stage of the consensus process, people have several options: to agree with the proposal, with or without reservations, to stand aside from the proposal but let others proceed, or to block the proposal. The option to block a proposal is based on the principle that no decision should be made without the consent of every member of the group. It is a defining part of the consensus process. It means that a minority can't be ignored, but solutions will have to be found that deal with their concerns. If a proposal is blocked, it means that the group can't move forward until it comes up with a different proposal that addresses the concerns that led to the block. Many groups go for years without anyone actually using the block. The fact that the option is there serves as a safety net. People have to listen to each other's concerns properly at the discussion stage because they know any one person can stop something going ahead if their concerns are ignored. If the block is used a lot in your group, it is often an indication that something is going wrong earlier in the decision-making process. For example, you may be rushing and not really listening to people's concerns. Alternatively, it may be that people are using the block lightly simply because they are not keen on an idea. It helps to share ideas about how strong your opposition needs to be to warrant a block. One yardstick that is often offered is there are such fundamental objections to this proposal that either I or others would have to leave if it went ahead. The point of this is to be honest with yourself and how important something is, not to use it as emotional blackmail. I'll leave if you don't do what I want. Nor does this mean that a division of the group is always a bad thing. A block could be an indication of a deep-rooted incompatibility between different members of the group. Repeated blocking by the same people or over the same issues can be a sign that it would be better for the group to split or someone to leave. However, the option of to block means that no one is forced into this position on the basis of one profound disagreement. There are different ideas about the kinds of reasons for which someone can use the block. Some groups only allow the block when the proposal goes against the core aims of the group. For example, someone in a peace group might block a proposal to accept funding from a company with strong links to the arms trade because it went against what the group was set up for. However, if their concerns came from a relatively unrelated idea of their ethics or area of their ethics, they couldn't stop the others from doing what they wanted. So if the funder was not involved in weapons, but the tobacco industry, it would be less clear that they had grounds to block on the basis that the proposal went against group aims. In other groups, it is also acceptable to block on the basis of strong personal values or needs. In the example above, other groups would allow the block on the basis of a fundamental objection to the tobacco industry, even if this is only held by one person. These groups argue that a decision can only be called consensual if everyone in the group has the right to withhold their consent for any reason, not just reasons to do with group aims. Which approach a group takes may depend on their ethics and philosophy. A group that wishes to place a strong emphasis on individuals putting the interests of the collective first might choose to reserve the option to block for proposals going against the group aims. For other groups, limitations on the block undermines the idea that decisions are taken only with everyone's consent. If people are only allowed to block for a narrow range of reasons, this takes away the option for them to say no to something which goes against something fundamentally important to them. Often the decision about what kind of block to allow will also depend on circumstances. A group with fluctuating membership may find it hard to build the trust, openness, and commitment which underpins consensus building. Without this, some individuals might be more likely to use the block to push their own agenda without real care or concern for the impact that this has on everyone else. In this situation, only allowing the block for proposals which go against core aims of the group could limit the potential for abuse of power. Another factor is the impact a decision would have on the person blocking and whether standing aside is a real possibility. For example, if a co-op decides that they want a new person to join, then this affects every other member. No one could stand aside from the decision and not be involved in it at all unless they left the group altogether. By contrast, if the decision was about a one-off event, then someone could not get involved in that particular thing and still be part of the group. A similar question is about how major a role the group plays in someone's life. For example, if the group provides someone's home or workplace, like a co-op or protest site, decisions are likely to impact much more on individuals involved than a campaign group that meets once a month. Similarly, the personal upheaval involved in leaving a group, if it takes decisions you cannot live with, is likely to be less if the group is a smaller part of your life. Whatever your group's approach, a big responsibility comes with the option to block. The block stops other people from doing something that they would like to do, and therefore it is only appropriate to use it if major concerns about the proposal remain unresolved when it reaches the decision stage. A person considering blocking needs to think carefully about whether they need to block or whether standing aside from the decision, letting the others in the group go ahead, would be enough. At the same time, a group needs to think very carefully before pushing any course of action that one person is powerfully opposed to, even if they are not blocking. Active listening, summarizing, and synthesis. Active listening, summarizing, and synthesis are core skills for participating in consensus decision-making. Finding solutions that work for everyone requires a good knowledge and understanding of what everyone wants. This sounds obvious, but after half an hour's rambling discussion, it's easy for people to get sidelined simply because no one heard or remembered their points. Broadly speaking, active listening enables us to hear what others are saying. Summaries help remind us of the key points in the discussion and check we have the same understanding, while synthesis is the skill that allows us to draw together different bits of different ideas to form one proposal that works for everyone. These skills are also important for facilitation, but we have included them here because it is so important that everyone in a meeting takes responsibility for really listening to each other and looking for ways forward. 1. Active listening. Active listening is a key skill for taking part in consensus meetings. When we actively listen, we suspend our own thought processes and give the speaker our full attention. Normally, our understanding of a conversation is colored by our own interpretations, experience, and point of view. However, when we actively listen to try to get away from this, we make a deliberate effort to understand another person's position and their underlying needs. It is important when actively listening to make the mental space. Don't think about what you want to say, but focus on the speaker. Avoid signs of impatience, such as looking at your watch, but encourage the speaker with open body language and eye contact. Oh boy, here we go. I'm not sure I need to say anything here. I think it's kind of obvious. but maybe I'm wrong. This is really ableist. For appropriate short questions or comments can help the speaker formulate their thoughts and let them know that they are being listened to. This might mean asking the follow-on questions like, how do you feel about that? What, am I a therapist? And how did that make you feel? Alternatively, repeating short phrases can encourage someone to elaborate or clarify, such as, I think it'd be mad to ask for him for help again, so we'll have to work it out for ourselves. You think it would be mad? Yeah, because this technique is particularly useful if you think the speaker might feel challenged by a direct question, like, why do you think it would be mad? Or you want to avoid steering the conversation in a particular direction. Active listening helps meetings in several ways. It helps us to understand how the speaker feels about a subject or situation and the underlying emotions, concerns, and tensions. It allows us to focus on the core issues of a speaker's message. It enables us to hear what the speaker is actually trying to say to us and not what we want to hear. It also shows the speaker we're interested in what they have to say. 2. Summarizing. Listening on its own is a great tool for diagnosing problems and hearing underlying issues. Hello? I know. They don't mean it completely literally, do they? I'm gonna have to ask them to repeat things a lot. Let's just go. There's a follow-on stage to active listening that can help a group move forward, so simply summarizing what's been said. Summarizing reassures speakers they are being heard, and it can also help to focus meetings. Examples include summarizing after a period of discussion to clarify where you think the meeting has to go, or summarize after someone has been speaking for a long time to ensure that everyone understood the essence of the point that has been made. To summarize well, always wait until the speaker has finished. Offer the summary tentatively and allow people to correct you if you get it wrong. Use phrases such as, you seem to feel that. What I hear you saying, ... Is that right? ? If we say something like, so you feel that, blah, 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 blah. Hey, this section right here is something that, one of my favorite professor in college, in engineering school, he was really big on this. He was really big on not saying things about what other people think directly, lest you eat your words, you know? Saying like, so, like stuff like this. What I hear you saying is blah, blah, blah. Is that right? Right? To make sure you actually understand what they're saying, not what you thought they said. Make sure that you got them right. Instead of saying, so you said blah, 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 blah. You're saying blah, 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 blah. Well, maybe they're not saying that. Maybe, you know, maybe you're wrong about what they think or what they said. Anyway, if we say something like, so you feel that blah, 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 and the speaker doesn't agree 100%, then the misrepresentation may offend them. Yeah. Rephrasing what someone has said in a few shorter sentences will show that we have understood the key points they wanted to make, and is likely to be more useful than trying to parrot what they have said word for word. Good facilitation should include, but just make sure that you're actually getting it right. That's the whole point. You have to make sure that what you're rephrasing is actually, that's why you have to ask and not just say that they said this, because maybe they didn't. Maybe your rephrasing of it is actually fundamentally different from what they actually said. Anyway, good facilitation should include frequent summaries of the discussion as it develops. This includes both content and people's positions, whether it's been said or communicated in other ways, e.g. through nonverbal cues such as body language, facial expressions, or with an agreed set of hand signals. Summaries are a good way for the group to be more aware of what stage the discussion has reached, and it can also help people who are visually or hearing impaired or simply forgetful. At least they mentioned us. Some people find it helpful to take notes or write up key issues on a flip chart as the discussion happens. This makes a succinct and accurate summary much easier. Part 3. God, come on, you do your thing. 3. Oh my god. 3. I can't. I think it's not lubricated enough. 3. There we go. That worked better. Synthesis. Bringing together different ideas and trying to find a proposal that is agreeable to everyone is the core of consensus, or at the core of consensus. Okay. We call this process synthesis. It maps out the common ground, finds connections between seemingly competing ideas, and weaves them together to form proposals. Because this skill is particularly useful at stage 3 of the consensus process, where you are looking for proposals, we have included a more detailed description of how to achieve it on page 20, apparently. This is page 33. Oh. Guidelines for consensus. Consensus relies on everyone's active participation. Here are some tips for how you can help make it work. If you don't understand something, don't be afraid to say so. Be willing to work towards a solution that's best for everyone, not just what's best for you. Be flexible and willing to give something up to reach an agreement. Help to create a respectful and trusting atmosphere. Nobody should be afraid to express their ideas and opinions. Remember that we all have different values, backgrounds, and behavior, and we get upset by different things. Explain your own position clearly. Be open and honest about the reasons for your viewpoints. Express concerns early on in the process so that they can be taken into account in any proposals. Listen actively to what people are trying to say. Make a deliberate effort to understand someone's position and their underlying needs, concerns, and emotions. Give everyone space to finish and take time to consider their point of view. Think before you speak, listen before you object. Self-restraint is essential in consensus. Sometimes the biggest obstacle to progress is an individual's attachment to one idea. If another proposal is good, don't complicate matters by opposing it just because it isn't your favorite idea. Ask yourself, does this idea work for the group, even if I don't like it the best? Or are all our ideas good enough? Does it matter which one we choose? Don't be afraid of voicing disagreement. Don't change your mind simply to avoid conflict and achieve harmony. When agreement seems to come quickly and easily, be suspicious. Explore the reasons and be sure that everyone accepts the solution for basically similar or complementary reasons. Easily reached consensus may cover up the fact that some people don't feel safe or confident enough to express their disagreements. Chapter 2. Facilitating consensus. Have you ever sat through a meeting that has dragged on and on with tempers running high, people talking over each other and no decisions being made? Haven't we all? Or maybe one person dominates the whole meeting and makes all the decisions, leaving you to wonder why you bothered turning up. Most of us can manage sitting through such a meeting for a couple of times, but then we start finding excuses not to go anymore, or at least wish we didn't have to. Unfortunately, this pattern is very common in groups of all kinds. It leads to frustration, inefficiency, and eventually loss of group members. However, with the goodwill of the group, it is quite easy to turn around the style of meetings and actually make them an enjoyable and inspiring experience for everyone. This chapter explores the concept of facilitation and how it can help in creating successful and positive meetings. This includes a section on how facilitators can make adjustments for people with physical and sensory impairments, as well as a section on minute-taking. God. You can find some further tips and techniques for facilitating large meetings in the Chapter 3, Facilitating Consensus in Large Groups. Okay. Here's a drawing of a bunch of people sitting around. The role of meetings in group work. Meetings are a necessary part of working in any group. They give us the chance to share information, to reach decisions, and to get jobs done. But meetings have another important function, which is often forgotten about: group maintenance. See the box to the right. Okay. A good meeting not only gets work done, but also involves, supports, and empowers the participants, creating a high level of energy and enthusiasm. A sense of community and connection to fellow group members is the basis for successful group work and social change. Good facilitation will help you to achieve all this. Alright, so let's see the box to the right now. What was the meeting successful? Question mark. Okay. Tasks. What got done? Did you get the necessary results? Were problems solved, and were the objectives of the group met? Maintenance. How did it get done? How did people feel, and how will this affect morale and group cohesion? Did the meeting make good use of the pooled talents? Was it enjoyable? Alright. What is facilitation? Facilitation is about helping a group to have an efficient and inclusive meeting. It combines a series of roles and tasks. These are often embodied in one person, the facilitator, but we encourage groups to think in terms of shared facilitation, with everyone sharing the responsibility for ensuring a meeting is well run, productive, and participative. What the dictionary says. Making easy, the act of assisting or making easier the progress of improvement of something. That makes sense, because facile, okay? It's French. C'est français. Vive baguette. Okay. Learn to facilitate. Facilitation is a vital role that needs to be filled at every meeting. In small groups, this function may be shared or rotated informally, while difficult meetings or meetings with a large number of participants, more than 8 to 10 people, usually benefits from having a clearly designed designated facilitator. I'm a big fan of rotating responsibilities in small groups. Anyway, let's see here. However, all members of any meeting should feel responsible for the progress of the meeting and help the facilitator if necessary. Facilitation tasks include helping the group decide on a structure and process for the meeting and keeping to it, keeping the meeting focused on one item and at a time until decisions are reached, making it easy for everyone to participate, drawing out quiet people or those with the most relevant expertise and limiting those who tend to do a lot of the talking, clarifying and summarizing points, testing for consensus and formalizing decisions, helping the group deal with conflicts, keeping the meeting to time, ensuring that a written record is made of any action points and decisions agreed at the meeting. To ensure that the group is using the most effective means of working through topics, the facilitator might introduce facilitation techniques such as idea storming, go-rounds, or small group discussions, which we'll apparently learn about in Chapter 6. Okay, I gotta take a short break, and then we'll be back to read this little infographic thing. Okay, diagram, whatever that is. Anyway, be back in a bit. Hello, you're back. Oh. All right. So we have it's a bunch of skills and qualities of a facilitator. Okay. Good listening skills, including strategic questioning to be able to understand everyone's viewpoint properly, understanding of the aim of the meeting as well as long-term goals of the group, confidence that good solutions will be found and consensus can be achieved. Hey, ATS. How you doing? Neutrality on the issues discussed. Trust in the facilitator is dependent on them avoiding manipulating in the meeting towards a particular outcome. If this becomes difficult, or you know in advance that you'll struggle to remain impartial, try stepping out of the role and letting someone else facilitate, making it clear when you're expressing your own opinion and when you're intervening as the facilitator, trusting that someone else will express your thoughts or feelings on the issue, asking someone else in advance to ensure your opinion is mentioned. Respect for all participants and interest in what each individual has to offer, and clear thinking and observation. Yeah. Pay attention both to the content and to the discussion and the process. How are people feeling? What is being said? Assertiveness. Know when to intervene decisively and give some direction to the meeting. Energy and attention for the job at hand. All right. Facilitating or chairing. Superficially, a facilitator fills a role similar to that of the traditional chairperson. There are, however, important differences. 1. A facilitator never directs the group without its consent. 2. At no time does the facilitator make decisions for the group or take on functions which are the responsibility of the group as a whole. Finally, a good facilitator stays neutral and helps the members of the meeting be aware that it is their business that's being conducted. The success of the meeting is the mutual responsibility of the whole group. The facilitator needs to be aware of this and always get the group's agreement before using facilitation techniques or activities. Who should facilitate? Are we doing a vote? Who should facilitate? Yes, it's just any random person. Let's choose someone, yo. Do we want, who do we want? Who's going to facilitate the whole world? Let's go. Let's choose. Choose someone. Who do we want? Oh wait, okay, hold on. Alright, the role of facilitator can be learned by everyone. Use your own experience of meetings and observe other facilitators. Learn from mistakes, from bad meetings, as well as good ones. If the role of facilitator is rotated amongst group members, people can develop with these skills. It is well worth running some training, aside from normal meeting times, to practice facilitation skills. These skills are not only useful in group meetings, but also in informal settings, at work and at home. Be aware that people's behavior in groups is influenced by individual needs and past positive and negative experiences in groups. Try to spot the effects of your own behavior patterns and work on identifying your own and other people's needs. For more on this, see Chapter 8. Okay. Co-facilitation roles at a meeting. Instead of just one facilitator, you may have 2 or more co-facilitators. You can share out more facilitation tasks amongst the group and make the job of facilitating easier and less intimidating. It is important for co-facilitators to agree before the meeting exactly what the roles in the meeting are and when and why they may change roles. Co-facilitators can take turns and support each other. This is useful if the facilitator needs to step out of their role to take part in the discussion, have a break, or when backup is needed in case of tension, conflict, or confusion. 4 ears hear better than 2, so co-facilitators are useful to check understanding of what is being said. Taking hands. One of the co-facilitators can take on the job of keeping track of whose turn it is to speak next, and of giving appropriate time limits to speakers. Vibes watching. Someone not actively facilitating can pay more attention to the emotional atmosphere of the meeting and watch out for individual members being affected. In situations of conflict and distress, the vibes watcher will intervene. The official vibes watcher. Imagine if this was like a federal, like, presidential appointment, you know? The official national vibes watcher, vibes checker. Every day they give a vibe check, and they do a press conference every day. Vibe check for the whole country. Every day it would be bad. But they would say it's good. They would keep lying and say that it's good. The vibes of America are great today, y'all. They're always so great. The only time it would ever be bad would be like, I don't know, if like, I don't know, I don't even know, some major disaster maybe. Nah, even then they just still pretend the vibes are okay. I feel like 9/11, they would say the vibes are bad. The vibes were bad that day, or they were a bit off. Something's a bit off in here, y'all. Okay. In situations of conflict and distress, the Vibes Watcher will intervene, for example, by taking on the role of an intermediary, by taking time out with someone to listen to their concerns, or suggest breaks and tools to improve the atmosphere of the meeting. Good Vibes Watchers are able to sense underlying feelings by listening carefully and being aware of body language. This will fail on every autistic person. Sorry, it's just not going to work. The Timekeeper. It's called a watch. Come on, people. Kids these days don't have watches anymore. They're always on their phones. God, it's funny how we went from big old pocket watches to little wrist watches and back to big old phones, which are even bigger than the pocket watches. What is this? Anyway, the Timekeeper draws attention to the agreed time frame for the meeting and keeps the group up to it, negotiating extensions for particular agenda items or for the meeting as a whole if needed. Minutes takers take a vital role at the meetings. They keep track of decisions, take minutes or notes, collect reports, and also draw attention to incomplete decisions, such as who is going to contact so-and-so and when. Minutes takers can also provide a summary of the discussion if needed. See page 53 for a guide to minute taking. Oh boy. A doorkeeper is useful in public meetings or when some people may be late. The doorkeeper welcomes newcomers or latecomers and brings them up to speed on the meeting, aims what's been covered so far in the agenda, how decisions are being made, as well as the practical housekeeping information such as tea and toilets. A doorkeeper can prevent the flow of the meeting being interrupted to recap every time someone enters the room. In very large meetings, it is advisable to have a practical coordinator responsible for the venue, equipment, refreshments, and notices. The coordinator can also gather people together to start on time. Facilitating consensus. We have a box here. Okay. The key to helping a group towards consensus is to help all members of the group express their needs and viewpoints clearly, map out common ground, and find solutions to any areas of disagreement. Active listening, summarizing, and synthesis are three skills that help the facilitator with this. Active listening. When we actively listen, we suspend our own thought processes and give the speaker our full attention. We make a deliberate effort to understand someone else's position and their underlying needs, concerns, and emotions. Summarizing. A succinct and accurate summary of what's been said so far can be really helpful to move a group towards a decision. Outline the emerging common ground as well as unresolved differences. Check with everyone that you've got it right. This is the most important part, by the way. The last sentence. Make sure that you're actually summarizing things correctly and that everyone agrees with your summary of what they said. Anyway, synthesis. Find the common ground and any connections between seemingly competing ideas and weave them together to form proposals. Focus on solutions that address the fundamental needs and key concerns within the group. Oh, pardon me. Alright. Facilitating a meeting beginning to end. This section gives an overview of the tasks of a facilitator, or the tasks a facilitator may need to undertake in a meeting. Whatever your group does, good meetings are vital to working together well. Every meeting is different. Not all the points mentioned may be appropriate. Use your own judgment and innovation. Whilst it's important that these tasks happen, it doesn't have to be the facilitator that does them all. Draw on volunteers in the group to help with the facilitation. Make sure that the goals of the group and members' expectations of the facilitator are clear to everyone. This allows the appropriate use of tools and suggestions. 1. Preparing the meeting. Find a time that most people are able to make. Think about patterns of daily activity, such as parenting, work, and dinner time. 2. Find a venue that is big enough to accommodate everyone comfortably. Ensure the venue is accessible. Can someone in a wheelchair or with hearing difficulties participate as easily as possible? Does the venue Yeah. Does the venue itself put some people off? Pubs and venues with religious affiliations can have this effect. No shit. Finally, have you put clear directions on your publicity? Chapter 8, Bridging the Gap, discusses the accessibility of venues and other practical issues. Part 3. Check whether anyone in the group has any particular needs so that you can prepare your facilitation accordingly. Even small changes in styles of facilitation and careful choices of exercises can help those with disabilities to take a full and active part in meetings. The most important step is to talk to anyone facing accessibility difficulties, ideally in advance. They're in the best position to advise on how the facilitator can include them. It can help to understand a person's attitude. One person may wish to take a full part in the group's meetings, whereas another person may not be at all bothered that they don't take their time or don't take their turn to write up the notes on a flip chart. Knowing about their attitude will also help to gauge whether and how to offer support. One person may appreciate frequent check-ins from the facilitator, but another may find them embarrassing or annoying. Being aware of this will help you prepare your exercises and timings. Number 4, prepare an effective agenda. Number 5, ensure everyone is informed about time, place, and content of the meeting. Send out pre-meeting materials if necessary. Don't just rely on email or social media sites, unless you know everyone has internet access and uses it regularly. Very important. Please do not organize your shit on Facebook. Oh my god. Literally like the worst possible place to do this shit, and so many people do it. 6. Consider physical arrangements such as temperature, air quality, ability to hear and see. Think about any special needs people might have and how to cater for them. Arrange the seating in an inclusive way. Some groups find circles are best because they allow for everyone to see each other, while other groups prefer rows so people can see themselves according to how committed they feel to the group. In the case of rows, many groups find a V formation useful, like sergeant stripes with the point away from the front. Gather materials needed for the meeting, such as your watch. See, the timekeeper needs the watch. Don't use your phone. Use a watch. Pens, marker pens, flip charts, written presentations, and proposals. 8. Find a co-facilitator who can take over in an emergency if the main facilitator tires or wants to participate more actively in the discussion. The meeting agenda. Here we go. A well-structured agenda is vital for a good meeting. I noticed that they said something about CBox on previous page for the agenda. This is page 44. This is page 45. It's not the previous page. It's the next page. They editing mistake. Okay, it's editing mistake. The meeting agenda. A well-structured agenda is vital for a good meeting. The facilitator can help the group draw up agendas that are focused on the aims of the meeting and are realistic. Remember, if the meeting is only an hour long, there should be only an hour's worth of items on the agenda. You can either draw up the agenda at the beginning of the meeting, or better still, prepare a proposed agenda in advance. It's important that everyone gets a chance to have an input and that the agenda is agreed by everyone. To create an agenda, first agree the aims of the meeting, and then collect agenda items from the group, preferably in advance. Yeah. Please do this in advance, please. Estimate the time needed for each item. Think about priorities for the meeting. What could be tackled another time or in separate working groups? Think about effective tools for controversial topics. Deal with difficult items after the group has warmed up, but before it is tired. Alternate short and long items. How should the meeting start and end? Plan in breaks, especially for meetings longer than 1.5 hours. Plan in an evaluation of the meeting near the end so that you can learn for next time. Write up the proposed agenda where everyone can see it on a whiteboard or flip chart, for example, or make copies and give it to everyone. Give copies to everyone, please. This will be helpful during the meeting, as well as democratizing the process of agenda formation. Ask yourself what you can cut from the agenda or trim down if anything runs over your proposed time. Have some suggestions up your sleeve. Here we go. This is a sample meeting agenda, okay? This is their meeting for the group that's trying to stop a new highway bypass thing from being built. Okay, here we go. Start, 7 p.m. please actually start on time. You can give like 5 minutes max, I'd say. If the facilitator doesn't show up, you have a real problem, by the way. Anyway, yeah, don't delay the meeting too much just because not everyone is there. Like they said, have somebody who can bring people up to speed if they come late, but don't delay the meeting for them too much, because then it's really annoying, because you really don't want people to be running late or not being able to complete everything you want to do in the meeting. Anyway, introductions, 10 minutes. Campaign summary, 5 minutes. Report back from working groups, media, finance, research, stalls, 20 minutes. Okay. Should we meet with the planners? Questions to ask, 30 minutes. Break, 20 minutes. End of year due, when and where, 10 minutes. Organizing more stalls, refunding, 30 minutes. Next meetings, 5 minutes. Any other business, 10 minutes. Evaluation, 10 minutes. And end, 9:30 p.m. Okay. 2. Getting a meeting off to a good start. Welcome everyone as they arrive and find out who they are. Some groups designate a welcomer or doorkeeper for newcomers. That way everyone is greeted by a friendly face, knows where the toilets and refreshments and fire exits are, and can be brought up to speed with the meeting progress if they arrive late. Introduce yourself and explain the role of the facilitators. Have an introductory activity. What you do really depends on the group. It might be a formal icebreaker or a few minutes of chat. Whatever you do, make sure you don't alienate anyone, especially newcomers to the meeting. If people don't know each other or there are newcomers to the group, go get everyone to introduce themselves. Really important for welcoming new people. Encouraging people to share more than just their names. Oh God, I'd rather die. I hate this shit. Ugh. You could ask everyone to state in a couple sentences of why they are here, or to share an interesting skill they have. For example, I can compose poetry in Mongolian. Mongolian is a very large area of the world. People speak Mongolian like in a very... The Mongols went everywhere over Eurasia, okay? Is that really an interesting skill? A lot of people use Mongolian. Like, it's like an interesting skill they have. Oh, I can speak Mandarin Chinese. Yeah, so can billions of other people. I speak English, y'all. Or ask for their favorite color, food, etc. If there are too many people, this could be done in smaller groups. Oh boy. Make sure people know how the meeting works. Explain the time frame, subject, aims of the meeting, process for making decisions, responsibilities of the facilitator, and what you aim to do. Agree with the group what behavior is acceptable or not acceptable in the meeting. For example, one person speaks at a time. Non-sexist and non-racist language. No dominating or threatening behavior. No, you gotta go up there, start throwing slurs at everybody, hold up a big knife. I know that this seems obvious, but you do actually have to, like, make sure you put these rules out, like, that everybody knows about them, okay? This may be agreed for a series of meetings, or unique to a particular meeting. This group agreement can be useful to have on display to remind people of what was agreed. Explain the proposed agenda, then ask for comments and make necessary changes. Be careful not to spend half the meeting discussing which item should go where. If necessary, be firm. Allocate time for each item and set a realistic finishing time. Keep to this. If using consensus decision-making make allowance for extra time to go deeper into the issue if necessary. Ensure roles such as minute taker, timekeeper, and vibes watcher are covered. 3. During the meeting, make sure everyone can see the agenda displayed on a large sheet of paper. Flip chart paper or the back of a roll of wallpaper are ideal for this. You can cross off points once they're dealt with as a visual reminder that the meeting is getting things done. A common way of starting is to recap recent events or the last meeting. Go through the agenda item by item. Keep the group focused on one item at a time until a decision has been reached, even if that decision is to shelve it for some other time. Use short items, fun items, announcements, and breaks throughout the agenda to provide rest and relief from the more taxing items. Make sure that the decisions include what, how, who, when, and where Ensure any action points are noted down along with who will do them and any deadline. Encourage everyone to feel able to volunteer for tasks and roles. If the same people take on all the work, it can lead to tension and informal hierarchies within the group. It can help if the more experienced members of the group offer to share skills and experience. If new items come up in the discussion, make sure they get noted down to be dealt with later. You could choose to use a parking space for this, which is apparently something we're going to learn about later. We'll find out what that means. Invite and move forward discussion. Clarify proposals that are put forward. State and restate the position of the meeting as it appears to be emerging until agreement is reached. Introduce tools such as idea storming options. Once again, we'll figure out what that means later, apparently. Forming small groups for discussion, delegating to work groups, and go-rounds to make the meeting more efficient and participatory. Some exercises may not be suitable for everyone. Consider what role hearing, sight, and mobility might play in activities. Please. Please. This is not optional. Not optional. Regulate the flow of discussion by calling on speakers in an appropriate order. Often this will be as they indicate they want to speak. Sometimes you may ask more vocal people to hold back from speaking in order to let others have their say. Help everyone to participate. Draw out quiet people, limit over talking, don't let anyone dominate the discussion. Use tools such as talking sticks. Find out what that is. The talking stick. If you talk too much, we hit you with a stick. I don't think that's what it means, but that would be funny. Please don't do that. We're breaking into small groups to equalize participation and create a safe atmosphere for expressing opinions and feelings. Consider participants' ability to actively take... I think, is talking sticks just you give someone a stick? Whoever holds the stick gets to talk. I like a rock for this. A rock is good. You hold the rock, you get to talk. Or there can only be a certain number of sticks or rocks at a time. So you can only have like 3 or 4 max people who can talk within a certain... And then they can hand them off to someone else if they want. So the discussion isn't like 20 people trying to talk at once. Consider participants' ability to actively take part in quick-moving discussions. For example, it may not always be clear who is saying what. Fast or excited speech may be difficult to understand. Use suitable language and exercises so everyone can participate. Sorry, I should have read this differently. Fast or excited speech may be more difficult to understand. Use suitable language and exercises so everyone can participate. That's actually, I really cannot read that fast. Okay, never mind. It's just, I'm disappointed in myself. I can't talk fast. Oh no. Check on the overall feeling of the group throughout the meeting. Check energy levels, interest in the subject, whether the aims are being fulfilled, whether the structure is appropriate, large or small groups, and time. Be positive. Oh boy. Use affirmation and appreciation. Comment on special contributions of members and accomplishments of the group. Be even-handed and don't just affirm a few individuals. Intense or tiring situations, try humor, affirmation, games, changing seats, silence, taking a break, etc. Some groups might rebel at the suggestion of wasting time on a game, but will welcome a stretch break or informal hilarity. Challenge put-downs and discriminatory remarks. Yes. Important. Ending the meeting. Alright, folks. We're done. Bye. No. Make sure the meeting finishes on time, or get everyone's agreement to continue. Make sure a time and place for the next meeting has been agreed, and that people leave their contact details if they want to be updated or receive minutes for the meeting. Do this before people start leaving. Yeah. Sum up, remind people of what they've committed to doing before the next meeting. Remember to thank everyone for turning up and contributing. Check that someone has taken responsibility for writing up and circulating the minutes or notes in the next few days. Evaluating your meetings can help to constantly improve them. It's a good idea to leave a few minutes at the end of every agenda and ask the group what went well and what needs to be improved. You could also get together afterward with the other organizers to evaluate the meeting. Remember to celebrate what you have achieved. It can be nice to follow the meeting with an informal social activity, like sharing a meal or going to a pub or cafe. Think about any special needs. Not everyone drinks alcohol. You might have vegetarians or vegans in your group and so on, so try to choose an inclusive venue or activity. Making meetings accessible. Thank you. For people with physical and sensory impairments. Visual impairment. Potential challenges for those with visual impairments include light levels, handouts, flip charts, and whiteboards, and keeping track of the discussion, particularly if hand signals are used. Pre-printed materials should be made available in a variety of formats, including large print. Although handouts can be adapted or recorded, it's obviously impossible to prepare all content, for example, things written up as part of an idea storm. It's so easy to just ask people ahead of time, would you like the agenda and shit in large print? Just ask how many people who need it, and then print that many in large print. Okay? In some situations, personal support may be useful, and the facilitator can help out by providing more detailed summaries. These could include interpretation of hand signals and other body language that people are using. For example, I see most people are waving agreement to that point, but some of you aren't. Some of you seem really enthusiastic about that proposal, but I see that others aren't looking too excited. Announcing your name before speaking and using names rather than pointing is helpful. Joe, Ann, and Sav, you all have your hands up to speak. This lets a visually impaired or blind person know who's about to speak. Hearing impairment. Deaf and hard of hearing people often struggle with larger echoing spaces and background noise at venues. Hi. Such as traffic, buzzing strip lighting, or other groups talking in the same group or same room. Yep. The person concerned will usually know how they can best participate in a spoken discussion. The following are all possibilities that are worth asking about. Summarize regularly, providing an additional chance for the flow of the discussion to be understood. Very helpful, yes. Make sure everyone can see each other clearly to allow lip reading, to make sure sound isn't impeded by other people's bodies. And to make sure, okay. Write up all points on a flip chart or whiteboard. Yes, these can be used as clues to provide context, allowing educated guesses at whatever hasn't been heard. Make sure people, especially the facilitators, speak clearly and not too fast, and look towards the deaf or hard of hearing person. People should take great care not to talk over each other. Only one person should speak at a time. The facilitator should be strict about this, yes. Have enough spaces available so small groups can work in different rooms to avoid background noise from other groups, yes. Human support, such as note takers, speech to text operators, can sit with hearing impaired people to write, type, or speak summaries. If the hearing impaired person requires a language service provider, such as a lip speaker or British Sign Language speaker, signer, contact the Action on Hearing Loss, local communication services office, or local disability rights information center well in advance. Finally, technical solutions may be relevant. Induction loops at venues are common, but don't always work too well, so do check them before the meeting. What the fuck is an induction loop? Am I thinking? Is it what I'm thinking? Like, okay. Got it. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. I'm like, I have the electrical engineering degree, right? So I was like, huh, what are they using? Oh, that makes, okay, yeah, it, let's see here. So let me explain how it works, okay? So it's basically an antenna for your hearing aid, okay? So you can send the audio of somebody, like they use a microphone, and then you can send the audio of them right to your hearing aid. Anyway. All right, motor and mobility impairment. Some mobility impairment issues will require practical adjustment or support at the venue. These are covered in Chapter 8. Okay, a good start is to familiarize yourself with the venue. What's the access like? Steps, handrails, ramp, etc. Is there an adapted toilet? Summarize and publicize access information in advance of your event. This sends a clear signal that you are prepared to make adjustments and provide assistance, and helps disabled people access whether they feel they can take part. As a facilitator, you may also need to consider difficulties in speaking or using hand signals. Plan the group's movements and physical activities, such as icebreakers, energizers, role plays, and breaking into small groups, in such a way that they are inclusive. Things to watch out for here are enough time and space to move, providing alternative suitable activities to where people are going to be positioned during exercises. Sitting on the floor can create barriers for people with mobility impairments and blind people. Please do not make me sit on the floor. Holy shit. That would hurt. Oh my god, cannot do that. Okay. Those unable to sit on the floor will be at higher levels and may feel isolated. Yeah. Oh boy. Fucking hate sitting on the floor. Oh my god. It's awful. Top tips for facilitators. Design a good agenda. Be realistic about what meeting can achieve, or what the meeting can achieve. Set time limits and tackle all points. Be aware of both content and process. Keep the group, God, I cannot read, moving towards its aims. Use a variety of facilitation techniques to keep everyone interested. Create a safe and empowering atmosphere to get the best contribution from everyone. Put a stop to domineering behavior, interrupting, put-downs, and guilt trips. Just to make sure that the people interrupting aren't interrupting because we're hard of hearing. I've had people yell at me before because of that. It's really annoying. Like, I literally can't tell that somebody's talking sometimes. And so I'll start talking because I think they stopped talking, but I'm wrong apparently. Anyway. And then I get yelled at. Taking minutes. Minutes are a written account of the meeting, covering the main points of discussion, the decisions reached, and actions to be taken. Keeping and reading minutes is helpful in several ways. Minutes remind people of what they said, they do, and by when. They provide an accurate record of decisions for the future when people's memories fail or when they disagree about what's been decided. This also helps avoid having to go over the same ground again and again. They inform people who are absent from the meeting about what happened and what was decided. They also provide a way for new members of the group to get up to speed with the group's actions and decisions. During the meeting, the minute taker can support the facilitator by checking that the what, who, where, and how are covered for each decision made. The minute taker can also help move the meeting along by providing a summary of the discussion on the basis of the notes they've taken. Top tips for minute taking. Oh boy. Clearly mark decisions and action points so they are not easy to spot. No. So they're easy to spot. If the minutes are long, provide a brief summary of key decisions and action points at the top of the minutes. You could even sort the action points per person so everyone can see at a glance what they need to do. That's a good idea. Okay, let's see here. Got some time. How to write minutes. Traditionally, minutes are a blow-by-blow account of the meeting, covering the major points that were made, the flow of the argument, and the decisions reached. However, for most meetings, a much shorter version is adequate, covering decisions made and action points to be carried out. Check with everyone how detailed they want the minutes to be. Sometimes a more detailed account can help those absent from the meeting understand why particular decisions were made, avoiding having to explain everything in the next meeting. Yeah, it's good to include a few bullet points of like what led up to a certain decision. You know, especially if there were any major concerns, you gotta write those down. But also just like the reasoning for decisions, the basic reasoning. Very important, I think. At the beginning of each meeting, go through the minutes from the previous one, record any corrections or additions, and ask for the group's approval. Minutes usually include the following: name of the group, date, time, and place of the meeting, list of people present and absent, amendments or approval of the minutes from the previous meeting. For each agenda item, summary of the issue and information shared, summary of the discussion, capturing key points, proposals, and decisions, including action points, who, what, where, and when. The next meeting, date, time, location, proposed agenda items, name of person taking the minutes, and any attachments such as relevant topics, budgets, etc. Distributing the minutes. Once you've written up the minutes, make sure they get distributed to everyone who needs a copy as soon as possible. Type them up, send them out, email that shit or whatever. And if the people, and make sure the people who are not going to get to that quickly or easily, people who don't have good internet access or reliable internet access or any internet access, deliver them to them. You need to have people to deliver that shit. Okay, anyways. Not only does this encourage a culture of getting things done, but also many people will wait until they see the minutes before they take action. If for some reason you're unable to send out the minutes on time, don't be afraid to ask for help. Decide during the meeting how the minutes will be distributed, who needs a copy, how widely do you want to circulate them, will it be on paper, via email, or on the group's website or wiki. You also need to work out a way of storing them in the long term that is safe and easily accessible. This could be a folder of paper copies or on a web-based archive. Privacy and security. Minutes provide lots of details about your group and individual members. Some of this info may well be sensitive and should stay within the group. For example, if you're a campaigning group, you may not wish to reveal your plans to the developer you're fighting. Corporations and the mainstream media have all been known to get hold of internal documents and use them to their advantage. As a group, work out how secure you need to be and what levels of privacy members expect. Agree how openly accessible the minutes will be, internally on paper only, on email list, or published on your group's website for all to see. What details really need to be written down? Okay, and then we have the ABCs and ABCs of minute taking, not the ABC. Okay, just one of them, one of the potential ones. Good minutes are, there's a lot of A's here, 1B and 3 C's. You know what Ho Chi Minh's ABC was? Exploitation. It's in the song, you know. Exploitation is ABCs. That's what he grew up with. Song says it. Just saying. Ho 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 Chi Minh, ho 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 Chi Minh. Okay. Good minutes are accurate, I hope. Record proposals and final decisions word for word and read them back to ensure accuracy. Separate fact from opinion. People are very bad at this. Facts are objective and indisputable. Don't make me get philosophical on y'all. Opinions are personal views. Agreed. Avoid misrepresenting anyone's contribution by asking everyone to agree the minutes. If the minutes are going further afield than those present at the meeting, get agreement before circulating them. Accessible. Use accessible language. Avoid jargon, in-jokes, and personal shorthand. Is email okay for everyone? If not, use post as well. Will everyone be able to open an electronic document in the format you usually use? Do you need large print copies for visually impaired participants? Allocated. Make sure action points have who and by when next to them. If they lack either, you may need to approach people and clarify the action point. If someone was volunteered to do a task in their absence, check with them before they read it in the minutes. Yeah. Everyone just agrees. Hey, yeah, this other person who's not here will do it. Don't worry about it. Don't do that. If they can't do the action point, find someone who can. Brief, but informative. Clear. Write the minutes so that someone who wasn't at the meeting would be able to be able to understand them. That way they'll be clear and comprehensible. There we go. You see what happened here? Would be able to clear. Able to clear. Right there. It's right next to the 2 here. But it's down the line. We complete. Ensure any documents mentioned are either attached or referenced so people can find them. For example, provide links to a website and circulate it. The job doesn't stop with typing them up. Okay. Wow, we did 2 whole chapters. We were reading this way faster than I thought we did. We're on page 60, so we might finish this in like only 3 more streams. Nice. Nice. Very good. Okay.